Beginning in 1972, Richard Nixon's White House slowly drowned in the rising tide of scandal known as Watergate. Journalists had discovered that a botched attempt to bug the Democratic Party headquarters in June was tied to Nixon's re-election campaign. Nixon secretly recorded conversations about the covering up, the break-in, and other abuses of presidential power, would eventually lead to his resignation.
So, Ms. Jacobs, what can you tell me about the history of recorded presidential debates?
Okay, so throughout the history of presidential elections, there has been many debates. The first recorded debate was between President Nixon and President Kennedy.
I remember, even on the first debate, we made the mistake of not preparing for that one. Well, we got prepared, worked like hell. We were running the goddamn schedule so hard. We didn't learn from the other. We're going to never make that mistake again.
Go Nixon, 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 go Nixon.
I have an idea.
Do tell. Mom.
We can wiretap.
Or we can take pictures. How do we get into the room, though?
Why don't we just break the door handle?
No. Tape.
Fancy hotel.
So are you enjoying yourself in our nation's capital, young man? Yes, sir. Well, where are you staying? It's called the Hotel Ebbot. Oh, no. I know of a much nicer hotel. It's brand new, very modern. I'll have my people take care of it for you.
Security, Frank Wells.
Yeah, sir. You might want to send a maintenance man over to that office across the way. The lights are off and they must be looking for a fuse box or something because them flashlights, they're keeping me awake.
Okay, sir, I'll check it out.
Thank you.
No problem.
Good night.
Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow. Vice President Ford will be sworn in as president at that hour.
The trip with the Forrest Gump was satire because it was lighthearted and take on a very impactful situation. The fiber was broken during the cover of the night and used tape on the door to ensure access. This would have worked had it not been for the security guard, Frank Wells. The most impressive part of the whole story was that they tried to cover it up.
Right there. Over here, no, over here. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good. Good. Yo. Good. Yeah, good. Okay.
What? Oh my gosh, I gotta call the police. Hello, 911. Hey, there's been a break-in at the National Democratic headquarters. I need police here now.
Alright, so the plan is we're gonna break in all three of us. We're gonna get in there and get him. Alright, let's do it. Alright, ready? 3, 2, 1, go! Police!
The most incriminating piece of evidence was named the smoking gun. It was a conversation held between Nixon and Hadelman, discussing how to cover up the investigation and just the investigation in general. They were to use the CIA to cover it up. But we do have to keep in mind that the CIA is not supposed to operate on the US grounds.
Mr. President, the FBI is not under control, and their investigation is now leading to some productive areas.
Right.
Okay, so the way we need to handle this is to have Walters, the director of the CIA, call Gray, the the director of the FBI, and have Walter say, hey, stay out of this. And Gray won't think anything of it, because this is normal stuff.
Uh-huh.
And that will handle it.
Uh-huh. And, what about Gray? Does he not want to do this?
No. He wants to. Trust. He's, ambitious. That's it.
Little did they know, Gray was working closely with Mark Felt, the associate director of the FBI. Mark felt he was well working with as a double agent for the Washington Post. His code name, it was Deep Throat.
Wait, but didn't they trace the money?
Yes, yeah, $25,000.
And who was it traced to?
Guy by the name of, what's his name? Ken Dahlberg.
Who the hell is Kindalberg?
He's, he gave $25,000 in, Minnesota, and the check went directly into this guy, to Parker.
Well, maybe he's a bum.
The two main investigative journalists on the case were Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein.
The court ruled the Watergate break-in was a third-degree burglary, but Woodward and Bernstein refused to stop their investigations there. The two first worked independently, but once they paired up, they were unstoppable.
Alright, what do we know? There has been a break-in at the National Democratic headquarters. 5 robbers. And we need to figure out how they're tied to the CIA and the Nixon administration. 4 of 5 of the robbers were active CIA in Cuba, but McCord was head security in Crete. The committee to re-elect the president? How are we going to get someone on the inside to help us out? What about Felt? Yes, call him! Mark? Yes? We need a favor. It's a big one.
It's probably pretty average.
We need you on the inside exposing Watergate and the Nixon administration for what they really are.
I'm in, but only if I get a cool code name.
That'll do.
With Mark Felt on the inside providing information, the two reporters had all they needed to go public with the information, and on October 10th, 1972, that's just what they did.
The supposed resignation of Hindelman and Rickelman caused a lot of unrest and confusion. It was later revealed that they were asked by President Nixon to resign in what was called a long and emotional conversation at Camp David. The two accepted and resigned on April 30th, 1973.
Today, it's one of the most difficult decisions of my presidency. I accepted the resignations of 2 of my closest associates in the White House, Bob Haldeman and John Ehrlichman, 2 of the finest public servants it has been my privilege to know.
I hope I didn't let you down.
No, sir. You got your points over, and now you got it set right and move on.
Well, it's a tough thing, Bob, for you, for John, the rest, but goddammit, I'm never going to discuss this son of a bitching Watergate thing again. Never, 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 never. Don't you agree?
Yes, sir. Good.
But let me say, you're a strong man, goddammit, and I love you. And I love John.
We're
all the rest, and by God, keep the faith. Keep the faith. You're going to win this son of a bitch. Don't call a goddamn soul. The hell with it. Let me just say, getting this call from you, and I haven't heard from any cabinet officer except Weinberger an hour afterwards, and thank God, and no staff member. Bless you, boy. God bless you. I love you, as you know.
okay.
Like my brother.
I will.
All right.
Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow. Vice President Ford will be sworn in as president at that hour in this office.
Vice President Ford was quickly sworn into office and became the 38th President of the United States. Then on September 8th, just 1 month after Nixon's official resignation, President Ford pardoned him for any crimes he may have committed, and here's what he had to say.
Phil Buchan, my counsel, and I said, can I pardon him? And he took a day or two to look at the options. He came back and said yes, and I decided that was the only way I could get rid of Mr. Nixon's problems that were taking 25% of my daily time, so I could spend 100% of my time on the problems of 230 million Americans.
After the United States Senate Watergate Committee in 1973 uncovered domestic surveillance abuses directed by the executive branch of the United States government, and the New York Times in 1974 published an article by Seymour Hersh claiming the CIA had violated its character by spying on anti-war activists, former CIA officials, and some lawmakers called for a congressional inquiry that became known as the Church Committee. Published in 1976, the committee's report confirmed some of the earlier stories that changed that the CIA had cultivated relationships with private institutions, including the press.
American politics were affected by Watergate pretty heavily, and many Americans lost trust in the government. And because of events in Watergate, it led to many campaign finance reforms and a greater demand for transparency in politics. You know, one of the biggest effects was the implementation of the Tax Reform Act in 1976, which prevents the irregular disclosure of tax return information by government officials.